delivery day reviews are rare for me, but this is going to take a good deal of rearranging and mounting to set up right, and I need to sort of get this out of the way so I don't have to unscrew it, unwire everything. It is the TASCAM MH-8, and if you can't tell what it is an 8-port headphone amplifier. It has 8 separate headphone amplifiers. Takes 2 sources and can spread them out evenly, including mixing, and every input has an individual input, so you could have an individual input. And there you go. Now I've got a selection of headphones hooked up. Mad Dogs, the HD562s, my 600s. These are the Argons, these are the Talos, and those are the 2000X. And right now all the sources are shut off. I have, source 1 is the computer. Source 2 is this Plano D Koan. And the individual source, which is only wired to 1 right now, which is number 8, is the M2 Koan. All playing. Now, these knobs on the left, I'll look at the back of it in a second. These knobs on the left are gain control. So you lower them down, you raise them up. This determines, when you figure out your source volume, you set these. And you may have to fish a little bit. I will say this about I bought it because in Japan, when you went to the giant store with all the headphone displays, they had 7 or 8 booths set up with every AKG, with every Sennheiser, with every, you know, Beyerdynamic. It was just, here's the Beyerdynamic. And you sat there and you had a Marantz CD player, an auxiliary cable, and one of these. This exact one. This has been sitting in my shopping cart since November. And I was like, do I need it? And I'm like, I don't know if I need it, because I have so many amps. And I'm like, but you know, it's coming to the point now where I have literally piles of very similar headphones. And to swap them out is just getting A, annoying, and B, inefficient. So now I have 8 headphone amps that could all play all at the same time, and I could adjust individually, all of them. And there you go. So this may not work in your particular scenario, but in my scenario, oh yeah. Oh yeah. So now, put the 600s on, which is this one. You select the input, big clicky button. See the signal light? There's an LED per channel, and over here, overload and signal. So the signal light's pretty much once they receive signal. Here, Bob Marley's playing. If I pause Bob Marley, no signal. Unpause Bob Marley, signal. And then you select. So let's say I want to put input number 1 on every single headphone here. And if I lower that down, so input 1 is getting signal, but it's not sending it out because this level is all the way down. So you start raising this level up. Bob Marley ends. It's not a peak indicator, it's just a signal indicator. So, come on. Depending on how you have the level set, they will flash on when they are receiving signal. And they're all a little bit different because they're all individual amplifiers, which is kind of cool. You put it up high enough, then they're all just solid. Because it's just supposed to indicate, okay, I'm getting signal. Now, input 2, which is the Plano D here, if I lower that down, same difference. Plano D, if I pause it, signal's dead, unpause it, they're all getting signal. Now, this counts as sort of a preamp, and these all count as individual amps, and depending on your source, like I'm using the Emotiva DAC is what's going to be used with this. It's a very delicate balance of where do I set this compared to where do I set these. And I should really turn it around. All right, I'll turn it around. Power off. Unplug. Don't lose adapters. Should I leave the front in? I'll leave the front in because that's fun. That's quite an array of stuff. Big ass power. Oh, it came with this power cord, which is so thick. I mean, it's like so thick. It's 1 amp. It's got a 1 amp fuse, so I don't know why it's got a power cord from like an air conditioner. Signal ground, so you can ground, not to earth ground, but to equipment with a lift switch. If you don't know what the ground and lift switch do, you're probably going to be fine. 2 inputs. Input 1 uses 1/4 inch TRS, which I have adapters, or XLR. And input 2 uses straight RCA or XLR. And you cannot mix the two together. You can't have RCAs and XLRs in this. That'll be bad. You have to pick one from each. So you could do XLR here and XLR here, or TRS here and RCA here, or XLR here and RCA. Yes. Okay. You getting the point of that? Good. Move down. Fold back for inputs 1 and 2. Now, these just simply, anything that's coming into 1 will output here. And that's coming into 2 will output here. And I'm going to use that because my Emotiva already has a splitter on the back of it. One that goes out here to the desk for me to use, and the other one that goes out to the sys to send to the subwoofer. And I'm okay with 1 split, but not 2 splits. So the fact that this has a fold back, so I'll be able to put the Emotiva into this and have it come back out and then go to my sub will be fine. It should work while unpowered. I haven't checked that yet. We'll find out. And then here is the array of all these TRS plugs, all the 1/4 inch, if you don't know what TRS is. Erg. Hi, Chewbacca. It's just a 1/4 inch male mono. So, if you wanted these to be all RCAs, which I have some in here already, you'd have to buy a bunch of these adapters. Luckily, I have a plentiful supply of those. What I don't have a plentiful supply of, now that you've seen the entire back, is 1/4 inch to 3.5 millimeters. I've found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one just came with the Ship 8000s. And then I have these two, which are the extended ones, which I usually like to use. You're not in this review. Go. Food. Headphones. Chewbacca, everyone. I promise, if the Patreon hits, what's the second goal? I think it's $1,500. If the Patreon hits the $1,500 goal, I will review the cat. Happy? All right? I'm setting terms. Because this thing is not easy to review. This thing's going to be a pain in the butt to review. Why are you here all of a sudden? Maybe there's a bear in the kitchen. Okay. Ignoring that for a second. You have to... if you have headphones that need adaptation, obviously you need a bunch of these. I actually have no headphones that are just 1/4 inch. It's sort of scary. They're all 3.5 with adapters. So 2000X, I got these V-motor cables for all the various Mark III enhancements. I got these things, which I always have. So yeah, I'm putting this down here now. Okay. Yeah, I know. Fly. Sit. Smells like burning electronics. Actually, it smells like my childhood. Game consoles used to smell like that when they got really warm. I remember. So, back to hooking this back up. I have noticed a difference. If you're going to use RCA, which I'm assuming most of you are, you may want to get a set of the adapters. Because it seemed like when I plugged it into here, it was just slightly overcooking the input. Again, like I said, it's a balance thing. Let's plug left and right. Then we plug, oh God, left and right. No rollback right this moment. And of course I screwed that up. So let's go left and right. And the power. Now, let's kick this back on. These wings, these rack mount wings, I'm not sure if I'm going to rack mount this, although it would be cool to rack mount it, but my rack is really far back, and that's like a reach over this table to get to it. So I think of replacing this 2x4, which in case you haven't noticed in all the videos you watch, this is a 2x4. Temporarily placed here just to level that out because it was on the shelf and all that shit. But it's so deep. This is so deep. This is like 11¼ inches deep. I didn't expect that, first of all. And it gets nice and warm. Power. And it may not fit under it. I may have to just stick this on top of the Emotiva, then put my laptop on top of that. So, negatives, positives. just like life. You can distort your headphones. These amps are not playing around. They're not consumer grade little, ooh, we'll just limit it. No, they will just destroy shit. Bad distortion, bad. Turn the signal up too high. Oh, Christ. I'm deaf now. And I didn't have this up all the way. Which one ever. This is like 2/3. So you've got to sit here and play with it and understand there's limitations. It's not going to coddle you, and it's not one thing. It's multiple things happening. Oh, you also get a mono switch, too. So if I want to put up... No, it's wrong. It'll switch to mono. So if you think you're having imbalance issues, boom, mono. Again, pro stuff. They're doing vocals off of a microphone. It's just one side. They want mono. So, God, unplug all of these. Which, by the way, that's super fun to do. Let's go to my 2000Xs, which are very easy to drive, and I figured they'd be a good test candidate to see what's if it has any sound leak between channels, and it does. Now, what I'm talking about is here. That paused? No. Signal 1 is computer. Signal 2 is this, which is playing. Okay, it was just a really quiet song. I wasn't picking up signal. I set these to about half. I've determined that right about vertical is probably good enough for most inputs. And now, although all these buttons are out, and obviously this button's out, if I turn this knob up all the way, I could just hear all the signals. 1, 2, and 3 are just bleeding because I have the amp up really high. See, the problem with, unless it's a digital relay that's actually clicking when you press that, all the grounds are shared. And there is going to be leak between inputs. If there's only one input, then there's no real concern about it slightly leaking through the other ones, or when you shut it off, it's slightly leaking. Doesn't matter. But when you have 2 full-time inputs, so if you wanted to plug your game console, I mean, look, I don't know who you are and why you have this if you're not me, but if you wanted to mix, people always tell me, I want to hear this and this, can I do that? And unless you have a mixer, you can't. Well, this has a built-in mixer. It's basically what it is. I could hit, whoa, 1 and 2, and now I'm hearing Lemon Jelly Spacewalk and Basement Jacks, both playing at the same time. Then if I hit direct, now I've got Must Be the Feeling by Nero, all 3 playing simultaneously in my headphones. It's a fucking disaster in here, but oh my god. And I lower it, and it's quiet. So this affects the main, this amplifier, no leak. You turn it up though, and everything plays. You shut everything off and turn it up, and you start to hear the seepage, sound seepage through the lines. So depending on your setup, if you have one input or both inputs and a direct, and I don't know how you'd have 8 directs on this as well, it would be insane. But if I was running a headphone store, which that is kind of one of my dreams, I'd have to buy a shit ton of these. Have a main demo computer that is line 1, that everyone would have an input. Oh, I want to try it on this, I want to try it on this. Actually, probably just 1 and 2. Point being, it has insane power. Like I could push literally 8 pair of T50RPs. Just 8 of them. Plug them all in. Turn the knobs. They're playing. 2000Xs are easy, which is why I pulled them out for that test. Now, 600's back on. I could still hear, even on the hard drive 600s, I could still hear some sound leak. It won't be even apparent in the camera, though. Alright, to lower this, one thing you really should know is to lower everything. Keep an eye, you could actually pretty much, using the reflections, you could see where the volume is on everything. And make sure you know where you are, and lower it before you click a signal on, because God knows. Wow, it's loud. Okay. So yeah, it's a headphone amp, man. Now, Behringer, I had a choice to make because this is not cheap. This was in my cart for months for a reason. It's not cheap. It's sort of like an extraneous, I'm a Zeos and I need to have this purchase. This is $400. And the way I worked it out in my head if I bought the SAP 6 here, if I bought 8 of those, because that's like one of my favorite cheap headphone amps, like period, it would cost $430. And then I'd have to deal with signal splitting and 12 or 8 power bricks. So just for convenience sake, you can't get 8 headphone amps that are good for less than $400. So the fact that Behringer makes one that's $150, I sort of wasn't ready to like. I feel like I like Behringer. I love their A500. Their little UCA202 DAC is decent. The headphone amp for that is garbage though. And I have a feeling Behringer for headphones are real finicky, delicate things that need a specific amperage, and you can't fuck with them. You can't cut corners on them. You hear it because it's right here in your ear. Speaker amps, if that A500 was cutting corners, you can't tell because you're deaf. Because it's pushing 100 watts, not a tenth of a watt. So, I don't know. If someone was willing to buy the Behringer, send it to me, I would do a comparison. It actually has cooler levels and stuff to show you things. But, no. If you're going to do... These are individual headphone amps, 8 of them. All of them individual. All with mixing circuitry and overload protection. Spend the money if you're going to do this many. Especially with expensive people's headphones that aren't really my headphones. So, this is the TASCAM MH-8. You probably don't need one. You probably don't need one. Jeff, he needs one though. What the... What just happened? Hold on, I'm confused. Was it just turned up real loud? That was so weird. Oh, it's so weird when you put open headphones on and your other headphones are all playing. So you're gonna want to switch signals on and off as you're like using them. Unless you've got a... Like you could just... Here's my thing. My cousin refuses to turn his speakers up loud for like watching movies. Like I went up to his house for the season premiere of Game of Thrones, and I brought the $1,000 SVS. And I set him up on like piles of stands and other speakers, and we put it on. It's like, no, quieter. Shh. There might be someone sleeping in the other fucking county. And I'm like, stop with speakers. Just don't bother. He needs to buy one of these, put it in his coffee table, wire his coffee table for power, and run signal from his television. Then everyone could just show up with their favorite headphones and watch Game of Thrones at whatever volume they want. That's an alternative. That's kind of maybe what this should be used for mostly. More of you should probably use it for that than being OCD assholes like me that have just so many headphones. So many headphones. Yeah, I think I'm done with this video. How's it sound compared to like a dedicated amp? Dedicated amp's gonna sound better. I'm just gonna say that because it coddles you. Because it's this here is like $100 and how much was that? $200. This SMSL Sanskrit PHA is like $200 on its own. So half the cost of this goes into one headphone out. Of course, it's gonna have more attention and detail paid to it. But if you got to do bulk headphone reviews, this is good enough. I will obviously test every headphone on individual, but if I'm going to do shootouts between T40s, T20s, T50s, Talos, Argons, and the Mad Dogs, wow, this is going to be easy. And I'm confident this will push without much dirt. Without the dirt, especially the dirt that Behringer might throw. My God. So yeah, I can mount it under. Can I mount it under here? It'll smash me in the legs. All right, I got to do work now. I got to rip things apart and stuff. So here you go. I guarantee you, nobody watching this video right now needs one of these, but you all want one now.